Good morning and welcome back. We are continuing to look at the poetry in the New Testament, and particularly today we are continuing to look at St. Luke's Gospel, and today it's the Nunc Dimittis, it's the prayer of aged Simeon when he sees Jesus in the temple. Luke chapter 2, verses 29 to 32. Simeon took the child in his arms. He blessed God and said, "Now you, O Master, are letting me, your servant, go in peace, as you promised, because my eyes have seen your salvation, which you have prepared before the face of all the peoples, a light for revelation, the revelation of the nations, and the glory of your people Israel." For a complete overview of Luke's poetry in his birth narrative, you should also look at Zechariah's prophecy in Luke chapter 1, verses 67 to 79, verses sung at morning prayer in many churches, verses which contain in poetic language John the Baptist's father's first words on hearing his speech restored when John was born. But now we have moved on in the story, as Luke uniquely tells it. Joseph and Mary had been ordered to Joseph's clan's ancestral home to fulfill a bookkeeping exercise imposed by the Roman authorities. And there were no excuses, even if you were 9 months pregnant. We all know Luke's Christmas story about the innkeeper, the shed, the manger, the shepherds, and the angels. Luke was once again taking the opportunity to educate his readers about the Jewish faith, and he correctly has Jesus circumcised exactly a week after his birth. A little later, once Mary's obligatory period of exclusion after a birth was over, they made it to the Jerusalem temple to fulfill their obligation under the law of Moses to pay God for the birth of a firstborn son. Admittedly, Luke sees this from a Gentile point of view. He doesn't speak of the purification of the mother so much as the presentation of the child, though he does mention the customary offerings that were made. It is at this point that elderly Simeon makes his appearance. He is an aging, pious Jew, not a violent zealot, but one of those who regarded any future peace and the settlement of Israel's fate as in God's hands alone. Luke regards him also as a recipient of the Holy Spirit, and his poem, which we call the Nunc Dimittis, is the verbal expression of his vision. His song contains verses found in the book of Isaiah, as it talks about the mission of the Christ to both Jew and Gentile. Isaiah chapter 40, verse 5 says, "Yahweh's glory will be shown to all. The whole of humanity will see it. It is Yahweh's personal promise." Luke will have been aware that his own travel diaries, written as he accompanied Paul on his mission, would eventually become part of a companion volume to his gospel, and would help to show how far the gospel had reached within the lifetimes of those who had known Jesus personally. He knew that he had witnessed himself the first steps in the fulfillment of Isaiah's dream, that the whole human race would see God's glory. Simeon could now rest in peace, knowing that those days were coming at last. Tomorrow, finally, the last of our studies in the poetry of the New Testament, the opening verses of St. John's Gospel. I'll see you tomorrow.